Hey guys, so I just wrapped up week 4 or box 4 of my thrift flips. If you guys have been following along in the month of January, you will know that I have been completely dedicated to clean out a room in my home that I was using for storage. It was originally a crafting area, and in the end it just became an area for storage. So I went in there, I fill up a box each week, I bring it on my Wednesday night live, and then we determine on the live what we should do with each of the items. And then I do have a thrifty or a flipping box. Yeah, it's all thrifted. I do have a flipping box, and then I have 2 days. So I have Thursday and Friday to flip those items in the box for today's video, and that is what I've done. So I hope you guys stick around and see what I've done with that box. The first item in the box is this metal tray. My vision here is I actually had another box that was supposed to be box 5 for next week, and in there were these little votives. Actually there were 7 votives in that box. So during the live, we all decided I was going to be painting this. I wanted to definitely update it with a springy type of color. Everyone agreed possibly a yellow. Initially I thought cake batter, and then I went with queen bee. What I'm going to do here is apply 2 even coats of queen bee from DIY. I'll do the front and the back, let that dry very thoroughly, and then I'm going to go in and I will seal it with Big Top, let that dry, and then to kind of calm it down a bit, I love queen bee, but I thought it was a bit bright, so I went in with white wax. Anytime you're using DIY paint, it can be reactivated, so you do want to always seal it with some type of top coat. I am using Big Top here, and again, I apply just 1 even coat. And you can use wax to seal it. You can also use any type of poly. I just really like using Big Top to seal, and then it allows me also to have more control over the colored wax. So after this dries, I just apply the white wax and then wipe it off. Unfortunately, I must have not hit tape for that portion of it. Here it is though, completely white waxed with the containers. For project 2, I must have painted these up for something. I was thinking for Antique Acres or Cranberry Fest. So during the live, we all determined I was going to paint these containers 3 different spring-like colors. So I chose Farm Fresh, and I thought because I already used Queen Bee, I would use Queen Bee. And then Gypsy Green, which in last week's video, I used Gypsy Green. So I'm going to apply 2 even coats to all 3 of these containers, let those dry very thoroughly, and sometimes I actually go in and wet distress them. I decided not to do that this week. What I am going to do here is, because I used white wax on the last project, I thought I'm going to use more white wax. So after these dry very thoroughly, I am going to seal them just like I did with the last project, and then apply an even coat of white wax. So I am going in with Big Top again and sealing these. All of the products that I am using in today's video, you can find on my website at www.sonnetsgardenblooms.com. So now that the containers are dry, I am creating little tags for each one. And I broke out the paper called Roycycled Catalog. It is the new paper from Roycycle's Decoupage paper. And I love this one because you can create over 50 projects with this piece. All of these images are just miniature versions of the actual large pieces of paper, which are, it's genius. What a great idea Royce came up with. And I love creating little tags. So I had found that package of tags a while ago, and it's just been sitting around, and I came up with the idea in one of my previous videos. I thought, what a perfect thing to have a little tag hang off of each one of these. And I chose 3 different images that were very spring-like and that matched each of the containers. Now that I had the pieces cut out, I tried to envision where I wanted to place each of the pieces on the little tag before I went and used the decoupage medium, which I love using liquid patina from DIY. By far, that is my favorite medium to use with the Roycycled papers. I do apply just one even coat, and then I go in and typically on a larger piece, which I'll show you later on in the video, I like to lay a starter strip of the liquid patina and then work my way down. Because the tags are so small, I just lay down all the liquid patina, line up where I want the image, and then smooth it out. I do that for all 3 tags, and I do let these dry very thoroughly before we take a piece of sandpaper and get rid of the excess paper. So now while the tags are drying, I am taking white wax from DIY, and it's so easy. I just pick up my container, apply just a nice even coat of the white wax all over. I take a piece of paper towel and wipe away the excess. If there are areas on the container where I want a little bit more wax in a crevice or a groove, I just apply a little bit more and then wipe away. I just love how these turned out. It kind of tones them down a bit, just doesn't make them as bright. Let's go ahead and attach the tags. I did take my sanding block and I did remove the excess on each of the tags, and it's super easy. Just take your sanding block in a downward motion. You just sand and it just comes right off any of the excess. So it's really nice and crisp and clean. I do take this chunky twine and I wrap it around the ball jar. I did find the twine at Walmart and I really love it. I like adding this different texture to the ball jars. I tie a knot and then I apply the piece of twine that came with the tags. I just loop that through the twine on the ball jar, and there you have it. Such a simple way to just take that ball jar and really put it to the next level. For the next project, I remember picking this up at the Goodwill bins, and for a while, anytime I saw a cutting board, I grabbed it. So this did end up in my stash, and I completely forgot about it. So during the live on Wednesday, some of the comments were, why don't you create a riser? Why don't you create decoupage it and then have some handles on Sonnet, just many different ideas. And I said, I haven't done that before, where I decoupaged it and then I put handles on it. And as I was cleaning up my craft room, I did find quite a few really cool handles. So that is what we're going to do here. So I'm applying one even coat of, actually, I apologize, 2 even coats of white swan to the entire piece. And I have been told you don't need to apply white under the decoupage paper. I like to because it really makes that paper pop, but yes, you do not have to. It is not a must-have do. So yes, you can, if you want a completely different look, you do not have to apply the white paint. I'm taking the paper called Sepia Blossom, and I am using just a chunk of it. So I lay out exactly where I want the piece. And I always like to have just a little bit of an overlap on each of the sides. That way, what I can do is I can take my sanding block and then just sand the excess. So I am cutting it to size, and then we are going to apply the decoupage paper. So just like I spoke about earlier, I'm using liquid patina from DIY, and what I'm going to do is I lay out where I want my paper, and now I'm going to start doing what's called the starter strip, and I basically just apply a really nice even layer of liquid patina, just a chunk on the top. Once I get that nice even layer applied, I then smooth out the top piece and it gets in place. Then I flip over the bottom and then I start working my way down. This really alleviates a lot of wrinkles, and I always just use my paintbrush to smooth out any excess wrinkles. But another thing that you can do is use saran wrap, and you can smooth it out that way as well. That helps you prevent from tearing the paper when it's wet. Now that the paper is completely dry, I am taking a sanding block, just like I mentioned, and in a downward motion, I am going to sand off the excess paper. And this really gives your project just a nice, crisp, clean image, and it's just such an easy way to do this. And you want to go down in the downward motion, because if you go upwards, you could then pull the paper off of your project. Now that I have it completely done, I am taking Big Top and I am going to apply one even coat over the entire piece. I figure that this piece is going to be used to have things set on, like a tray. So I just want to give it that extra protection. So here you can see I just set where I want my little handles to be. I also have some decorative black screws that I purchased with the handles, and then I also use a tiny little drill bit. I use that drill bit to actually drill a tiny hole into the breadboard. That way, when I screw in my little screws, they will go right in and you don't strip them out. It just makes it so much easier. I honestly do not know how this just ended up in my storage area. I love purchasing rolling pins and upcycling them. And in today's project, I'm going to be doing just something really simple. I love finding rolling pins with really fun, different aged looking handles. So we're going to do that with this one. And because I had that other board that I just did with the black handles, I thought this would be perfect to use Little Black Dress from DIY. I'm applying just one even coat to both handles, letting those dry, and then I am going to wet distress it. Wet distressing is a super easy way to distress an item, have a little bit more control over where you want the distressing, and I just kind of randomly rub here and there just to make it look like it is an old, worn, used handles from years of baking. After that, I seal them, and I used Big Top. I let it dry very thoroughly, and that was a very simple flip. For this next project, everyone loved the one black candlestick, and I had thrifted that ages ago. The other two had been in my decor years ago. Sometimes when I have things in my decor, I do have an area located in my basement where I transition things in and out when I decide I want to just change things up. And eventually those I decided I didn't want any longer, and then I put those in my stash, or an area where I was going to flip them, and I completely forgot about them. Now in my live, everyone loved the black candlestick, so I decided to go with that, and I painted all three candlesticks a little black dress. I let it dry very thoroughly, and then I sealed them. Again, I like sealing with DIY's Big Top, but you can seal DIY paint again with wax or a poly, whatever you are going for. So I just went in and I applied one even layer to all three pieces, let that dry overnight, and then I came back and we are going to bring out all the detail of these candlesticks. So they are completely dry. I'm breaking out my white wax again, and I am going to apply a nice even coat of white wax to each of the pieces. Take a piece of paper towel and wipe away the excess. Now in this first candlestick, I just absolutely love how the white brings out all that detail, which you could not see with it painted that just like that yellowish color. So I really love how all the detail just really pops on these candlesticks because of the white wax. For this next project, during my live, we were going to go with more of a nautical theme for this project. After I looked at it and the whole vision that I had for all these other pieces, I changed my mind and I went with, I just wanted to apply a little bit of that decoupage paper called Sepia Blossom to just one side of this little box. So I applied one even coat of White Swan. I let that dry very thoroughly, and then I came back and I just cut a tiny piece of that excess paper and applied it to the front of this. And just a little paint and paper truly changed the entire look of this little crate. Here I'm laying out the paper, trying to decide what piece or portion of this that I want on here. I made a decision that I really liked this portion. I wanted a little bit of the writing, a little bit of the flower, and some of the leaves on here. Now that it is completely dry, I am using my sandpaper and removing the excess paper, and this project will be completely finished. For our final project, I thrifted this little girl from the Goodwill bins, and she caught my eye because it looked like somebody took some charcoal and drew her with either charcoal or like a charcoal pencil, and I just loved that look. I went into my stash and I actually found this frame, and I've had it for a while. I ended up getting it for, I remember, half price, and initially I just liked the color, and I was going to put it in my booth with like all kinds of like my spring stuff. But then I thought, you know what, I will definitely, this will be a better solution using that little girl in this. And this is where things kind of went wrong. I'm taking off the back, and I did not realize that one of those little tabs was actually underneath and it was still down. So from underneath, I start pushing up and it actually breaks the glass. And I'm like, no, oh my gosh. And I don't have time to go get a new piece of glass. I don't want to invest any more money in this project. So what I decide to do here is I'm just pulling the glass out, I'm tossing it, and I am just going to put her in the frame and just leave it very natural. So I'm using Little Black Dress, and I'm going to apply 2 even coats of Little Black Dress from DIY to the entire frame. I'm going to let it dry, and then I'm going to come back and seal it. And at first I was going to just leave it at that, but after I used this white wax on all these other projects, I thought that would be perfect. Put some white wax on here, get it in all those little grooves, the little crevices, and really make that frame pop. So I'm taking her and I am going to cut her down to fit that back plate. And I realized that they had cut some chunk on the bottom off. She wasn't square, so I just had to make do and do the best that I could. So I tried to line it up as perfect as possible, and then I took a pencil and I marked where I needed to cut, and then I just cut off the excess. So now that I sealed my frame, I'm using the white wax, like I said, and I'm going in and I want to bring out all those details of the frame. I'm applying 1 even coat of white wax over the entire piece, even on the sides, then going back with a piece of paper towel and wiping off the excess. Now it's time to put her back in the frame, and initially I was going to use 2-sided tape and attach her to that back piece, but I decided that way if I ever want to put her in a different frame at any point, I'm not keeping her, but let's say it doesn't sell, I want to transition her to do something different, I decided not to apply the 2-sided tape. I put her in and the project is complete. So what did you guys all think of week 4? I love how many of those items were transformed. It's amazing. Just a little paint, a little paper can totally transform an item. Now, all those items are going to be going into one of my booths, and in the next coming weeks, that is what I'm going to really be focusing on. Prior to my vacation, I do want to do a booth flip on all 3 of my booths. So I'm sure that each week you're going to probably be seeing some of my booth flips coming up. Monday's video, I am probably going to do some type of furniture flip, and then by Wednesday is going to be the last day of the flips, guys, for my stash. I'm going to keep doing thrift flips. Do not worry. You're going to definitely see those in the future, but it's not going to be just a whole box of stuff that I have picked out of my stash. If you do want an update on my room, I have it almost all the way organized. Every day I walk in there and I am like, oh my gosh, why didn't I do this sooner? I feel so organized. Everything is getting a place, and I will be giving a tour on a live in an upcoming, probably next week, maybe not next week, maybe the week after, sometime soon, I will be giving a tour of my space that I have completely organized. But as for this out here, this studio, I definitely need to reorganize this because as I've been flipping items, now I need a lot of pricing. So I definitely have to get that done. All right, well, I will see you guys Monday, either on YouTube here, my video, or I do lives over on Facebook every Monday and Wednesday, and I'd love for you guys to join me and see what I have in store for you. All right, well, you guys have a great weekend, and we'll see you Monday. Bye. Bye.